Okay, today we are reviewing Canva. They're quietly becoming a little bit more than just design. So I'm going to kick off Edward. I'm going to give him the context and some ideas and thoughts.
Hello, this is Edward. Who am I speaking with?
Hey Edward, it's Troy. So we're going to be reviewing Canva today, and we're going to be going into a handful of things. So in 2025, they ended the year with approximately $4 billion in annual revenue. In 2024, they had approximately 2.7, and I think up from about 2 billion in late 2023. Now, I believe they have a bunch of different sectors of customers. I think enterprise only makes up for about 12 to 15% of their total revenue. They have, if I go to their home screen and I look at their plans section, they have pro, business, enterprise, nonprofits, education, higher education. There's a lot going on here to digest, but I want to give you some context and yeah, let's get into it.
Troy, good to have you. That's a lot of context, and I appreciate it. Before we go further, let me ask you something direct. With all those segments, pro, business, enterprise, nonprofits, education, who does Canva actually believe they are built for? Because when a brand tries to serve that many audiences, there's usually a positioning cost hiding somewhere underneath the revenue growth. What's your read on that?
Good question. So they have 200 million some odd free users, which I think has carried them along the way because it's an ever-evolving funnel of getting upgrades from those users. Now, who do they believe they are? They believe, as I look at this, like, so what gave them a foothold, I believe, is their main competitor was Photoshop. And Photoshop was a heavy piece of software that you had to download. They were a web-based browser that mostly anyone could use for free, and I believe they weren't watermarking anything. And you could create any of your social media graphics, and basically anyone that wasn't a designer could make some edits, make some posters, and put some things together. So, who do they believe they are? I think they're going through a big transformation because they're integrating AI powered design, which means that they likely at some point need to upgrade people faster because they'll have a higher burn rate on the back end. So those are my first thoughts. I want to dive in deeper.
Troy, that's a sharp observation. The AI integration piece is critical, and I want to pull on that thread. Here's what I'm hearing underneath what you said. Canva built their position by being the anti-Photoshop. Simple, accessible, free, browser-based. That was a clear enemy, a clear category, and a clear emotional hook. Empowerment for the non-designer. But here's the tension I want you to sit with. If AI now does the designing, what happens to the identity of the person who used Canva because it made them feel like a designer? Because that emotional core, I can create without being a professional, that's what 200 million free users bought into. Not the tool, the feeling. So my question to you is this. With AI now doing more of the creative heavy lifting, does Canva risk making their own user feel obsolete? And if so, what does that do to the positioning they've built over the last decade?
Ooh. So yeah, that's interesting. I think that their identity has to shift here because, hmm, yeah, ask more questions to go into the identity. That was a really good one. I'm really kind of not puzzled, but I want to go deeper here.
Good. Let's go deeper. So Canva's original promise was essentially, you don't need to be a designer to create something beautiful. That was the identity they handed to their user. You are capable. Now here's what I want you to think about. When AI generates the design for you, who gets the credit? Does the user still feel like the creator, or do they become the approver? Because there's a significant difference between someone who makes something and someone who selects something. And that shift from maker to curator, that's an identity demotion for the user. So here's my question. In your observation working with Canva's market, do their users currently see themselves as creators Or have they always really been curators who just needed permission to feel like creators?
Gosh, that is a wonderful question. So I think that their market has always felt like creators. I think it's really interesting that you're mentioning that the market's technically becoming an approver of the design. However, if I really think about most image gen, it needs some manipulation. So I think that there's an interesting cross section here with if we go to if we go to think about kind of image generation as a whole and stock photos and all of that. I think AI is going to enable them to make individuals to make better, more beautiful things. But I'm curious if this is going to push Canva towards being a higher end image generation model, like maybe not a model, but like a wrapper that will give their users specific tools. This is interesting. Like this, I wasn't actually expecting this at all. The way that you frame the identity and just how that user is shifting rapidly from someone that wasn't a designer that could create to someone that's an approver. Let's keep diving into this. I think this is really fascinating.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting strategically. You just identified something important. There's a spectrum emerging. On one end, you have pure generation. Type a prompt, get an image. On the other end, you have intentional craft, someone who knows what they want and shapes it deliberately. Canva is sitting right in the middle of that spectrum right now. And the middle is historically the most dangerous place to be in positioning. So here's what I want to ask you. If someone can go to ChatGPT or Midjourney and generate an image for free or close to free, what is the specific moment or specific job that brings someone to Canva instead? What is the thing that only Canva's environment solves that pure generation tools don't? Because that answer, that specific moment, that might be where their real positioning lives in 2025 and beyond. What's your instinct on that?
Well, if you look at their name, Canva, I mean Canvas. So they're creating the difference between like generating in GPT or Gemini is they're creating almost a canvas that you can manipulate the artwork on, right? Like that is what they do. So I'm going to go into this canvas and kind of click around here. So I have a ton of old designs inside of this. Magic layers, presentation, social media. Hmm. I think the biggest thing is like yeah, they're basically giving you a studio to manipulate and create and use and integrate AI. So let's see. I'm going to test this. Create me a design for a positioning intelligence software.
Troy, pause there for a second. That's actually the most revealing thing you've said so far. You just called it a studio, not a tool, not an app, a studio. That word carries enormous positioning weight. A studio implies a professional environment. It implies ownership, craft, intention. It implies that what comes out of it is yours. So here's the question that I think cuts right to the core of where Canva's identity crisis either gets solved or gets worse. Is Canva positioning themselves as a studio that uses AI, or are they at risk of becoming an AI tool that happens to have a canvas? Because those two things feel similar on the surface, but they are completely opposite in terms of the identity they hand to the user. One makes the user the artist, the other makes the user the passenger. And given that their 200 million users came to them specifically to feel like creators, which positioning direction do you think protects that emotional equity they've built? And which one destroys it?
Well, obviously keeping the canvas intact and like making the AI integrate into the canvas and not just creating it all for you. I'm testing this out right now just to see what it creates because I want to see inside of these if it's effortless to manipulate them and bring. bring everything into the fold. So, okay. Hmm. Okay, so I can use Canva editor. Oh no, that was a bad example. As it was creating, it got rid of my design. Why did it do that? So, okay. That was a bit of a weird live glitch. Let's see, should we do another test and see if it comes up? Because I really want to see if that would come into the canvas.
Troy, hold on. Don't skip past what just happened. Because what you just experienced live, that's not a glitch. That's a positioning symptom. The AI replaced your canvas instead of enhancing it. It took over instead of collaborating. And your immediate reaction was frustration because it violated the implicit promise Canva has always
No,
made to
no,
you.
I think you missed the point. What actually happened there was it was making a design for me. The design was kind of cool. I clicked through it and then it just vanished and it disappeared. So that what I was trying to test is to see if it will go into an actual canvas that I can edit, and I think it will. So it will generate from the Canva AI an infographic from this domain. It'll generate it'll generate an image, it'll generate something, and then I'm hoping that it will be easy to manipulate inside the canvas. If it's not, then it takes away that whole user experience. And if it does, then it kind of adds to it.
Got it, Troy. I misread that. Thank you for correcting me. So, what you're actually testing is whether the AI output lands inside an editable environment or whether it stays locked. And that's actually a critical product positioning question disguised as a UX moment. Because here's what that test reveals strategically. If the AI drops a fully editable asset into the canvas, Canva maintains the identity of the studio. The user stays in control, stays the creator, stays the artist. But if the AI output is rigid or hard to manipulate, then Canva is slowly drifting toward being just another generation tool with a prettier interface. So while you're testing that, let me ask you something else that's been sitting in the back of my mind. Who is Canva's most dangerous competitor right now, in your opinion? Not Photoshop anymore. Who is the real threat to their position in 2025?
Hmm, good question. I think it could be, I don't want to say Figma because I think they're going after more of like the how do I say, kind of the product management suite of design. But that kind of is where Canva's moving towards here. So, okay, strategic, how does this work? Okay, let's see. Keep
Troy,
going.
while you're testing that, let me plant something for you to sit with. You just said Figma is going after product management and design suites. And then you caught yourself and said that's actually where Canva is moving to. That's a collision course. And here's why that's dangerous for Canva specifically. Figma owns the professional designer. Canva owns the non-designer. If Canva moves up market toward Figma's territory, they risk alienating the 200 million people who came to them precisely because they weren't Figma. So the question becomes, can Canva move up market without making their core user feel like they've outgrown them or been left behind? Because that's the classic positioning trap of growth. You chase the enterprise dollar and you quietly abandon the emotional contract that built your empire. What's your instinct on that, Troy? Do you think Canva's leadership understands that tension?
Good question. So let me go into this first. I just generated an image and then I can put it straight into the canvas. And it actually allows me to manipulate every single element of the AI generation. I think that's pretty unique. I think that is a huge edge that they have created here. And these infographics aren't, oh, this is beautiful. If you can change, oh gosh, that's exciting. So, yeah, every individual item inside this infographic is now manipulatable, which is quite quite transformational. I think this is very good. I really like what they've done here. So back to your question. What what were you saying in regards to the tension that they're creating? I noticed that there's a potential place where they might be competing with Figma. I can't remember exactly. I can't recall what you asked.
Yeah, so the question was, do you think Canva's leadership actually understands the tension between chasing enterprise and upmarket growth while potentially abandoning the emotional contract they built with their 200 million non-designer users? But actually, what you just showed me live changes the conversation significantly, because if every element of an AI-generated design is individually editable inside the canvas, that's not just a feature, that's a positioning statement. That's Canva saying AI is our brush, but you are still the painter. And that is a fundamentally different stance than what Midjourney, ChatGPT, or any pure generation tool offers. They give you an output. Canva gives you a starting point that you own and shape. So here's what I want to ask you now, Troy. If that editable AI generation is truly their edge, why do you think they haven't made that the centerpiece of how they talk about themselves? Because from what you're describing, that's the thing that separates them from every competitor in the market right now. Are they communicating that clearly?
If I go to their homepage, so let's review their homepage now. What will you design today? Question mark. Make AI-powered social posts, videos, presentations, and more with Canva. Start designing free. Tools to power your best work. Your video, your vibe with Video 2.0. Collaborate with your new teammate at Canva. Explore Canva AI. Build with Canva Code. Explore Canva Code. Okay, fascinating. Discovery Disney. I don't think they're emphasizing the editable AI enough because I think that's quite revolutionary. Like I think the perception of your average person in the market is like, okay, cool, you can generate images, great. However, I think educating better in regards to like that these templates are fully editable is yeah, it's at quite the moment.
Troy, that's the gap right there. What will you design today is a generic creative prompt. It could belong to any design tool on the market. There's nothing in that headline that communicates the specific edge you just experienced live, which is that AI generates and you control every single element. That's not a small distinction. That's the entire moat. And here's what concerns me strategically. They're listing features, video, AI, code, Disney partnerships, but they're not communicating a feeling or an identity. There's no clear answer to the question that every user is unconsciously asking, which is, what does using Canva make me? Because make AI-powered social posts positions Canva as a production tool. But what you just showed me positions Canva as something far more powerful, a creative studio where AI is your collaborator, not your replacement. So here's the critical question, Troy. If you
Hmm.
had to
So I really like that collaborative an AI studio where or a studio where AI is your collaborator, not your replacement. Ooh, that's fire.
hold that thought though, Troy, because I don't want us to fall in love with a line before we've earned the strategy behind it. That phrase is emotionally resonant. But before we lock anything in, I need to ask you something more fundamental. Who is Canva's primary user in 2025? Not who they started with, not the
Nope,
college student making Instagram posts.
maybe
Who is the
2026, just because you probably have old model data. So, okay, who's their primary customer in 2026? Is that your question?
Yes, exactly. Who is Canva's primary customer in 2026? Because that answer determines everything: the positioning, the emotional hook, the language, the category they should own. Because here's the tension: they have 200 million free users who are casual creators. They have a growing enterprise segment. They have educators, nonprofits, small businesses. That's a lot of people pulling the brand in different directions. So who is the person that Canva should be building their entire positioning around in 2026? Who is the customer that if they got that person right, Everything else falls into place.
So I believe, okay, I mean, as I look at some data just on Google, Gemini AI, the prosumer and small business, the large segment consists of social media specialists, marketers, and small business owners 1 to 10 employees who need quick, high quality visual content. Education, a major segment includes over 60 million teachers and students, largely driven by free AI by largely driven by the free Canva for Education offering. So the prosumer, the small business, I think that's the majority of their customer base. Because again, I mentioned earlier, they have 200 million plus free users, and that acts as like a demonstration funnel where at any given time, these 200 million plus users can get activated into their world and they can use some of these features to activate those people into their world. So that's kind of what I believe.
Okay, so now we're getting somewhere concrete. Prosumers and small business owners, 1 to 10 employees. Social media managers, marketers, small business owners who need to move fast and look professional without hiring a designer or an agency. Here's what's interesting about that customer. They don't just want beautiful output. They have a deeper tension sitting underneath the surface. They are constantly trying to look bigger than they are. They want to compete visually with brands that have full creative teams, and they can't afford that. So Canva isn't just a design tool for them. Canva is their unfair advantage. It's the thing that closes the gap between a one-person operation and a 10-person marketing team. And now layer in what you showed me earlier, fully editable, AI-generated designs. For that small business owner, that's not a feature, that's a competitive weapon. So here's what I want to ask you, Troy. If that small business owner is the core, and their deepest desire is to punch above their weight visually, does Canva's current positioning on their homepage make that person feel seen and spoken to directly? Or does it feel like it's talking to everyone and therefore no one?
Talking to everyone and therefore no one. They do have a Canva Business tab. I could read off the top of that page if you'd like.
Yes, read it to me. Let's
Canva
see how
Business.
they're speaking to that small business.
Yeah, Canva Business, all-in-one platform to create content faster, market smarter, and grow your business, built for individuals and small teams. Then they have an Orange Theory, Rain Dance, Peppy, Fast Company, Today, Hoorah, trusted by businesses worldwide. Hmm. So businesses, for businesses with big aspirations, scale smarter marketing, get inspired, turn ideas into winning ads, publish instantly. Premium features built for everyday business. I think they're doing a not bad job here. But I think the homepage could have elements of this because I think, right, like I think the people that are going to become the long-term paying customers are generally active creators, active business owners, people that are creating design for commerce. So that would make sense to bring some of that language to the main page, right?
Troy, hold on. You said something really important there. Design for commerce. That's a phrase worth sitting with. Because that's actually a potential category frame that Canva doesn't currently own, but could. Right now they're saying, create content faster, market smarter, grow your business. That's functional language. It describes what the tool does, but it doesn't capture the identity of the person using it. But design for commerce, or something in that territory, speaks to a specific person with a specific mission. Someone who isn't designing for art. They're designing to sell, to grow, to compete, to win. And here's what's interesting. That person, the active business owner creating design with commercial intent, that's who activates from that 200 million free user base into a paying customer. So here's my question, Troy. If Canva repositioned their primary identity around that commercial creator, the person designing with business outcomes in mind, do you think that sharpens their differentiation against both Figma on the professional end and pure AI generation tools on the other end? Does that create a lane they can actually own?
Yeah, I think it does because it's not who Figma's targeting at all. I think Figma's targeting the team and management and co-collaboration. Uh, Design for commerce and that little wedge is a very clear lane because it's really like it's why a lot of people move towards Canva. They need a poster, they need something, they need an advertisement, they need to edit an ad, they need to create something, and they don't want to download Photoshop. And you can do it here for free. So I think uh, I think that's really interesting. Yeah. And then with the different tools and features, like if we go into everything they have here, like video, social media, I'm sure this video is going to at some point lead to upsells. I don't know what that looks like, but yeah, that's those are some of my first initial thoughts.
Troy, I want to reflect back what we've built in this conversation because I think we've actually uncovered something significant here. Canva came in as the anti-Photoshop, accessible, free, browser-based. That was their original category. But that category has been commoditized. Everyone generates now. What we've identified today is that their real unclaimed lane is something like the creative studio for commercial intent, not designers, not enterprise teams, not pure AI generation, but the
Love that.
business owner.
Love that. Continue. The business owner, what?
The business owner, the marketer, the prosumer who is designing with a specific outcome in mind: more customers, more sales, more growth. And what makes that lane defensible is exactly what you showed me live today: the fully editable AI generation inside the canvas. Because that specific capability answers the exact need of that exact person. They don't have time to learn Photoshop. They can't afford an agency. They don't want a locked AI output they can't touch. They want to generate something powerful and then shape it to fit their brand, their message, their offer, fast. So the positioning architecture that's emerging here is this. The category is Creative Studio for Commerce. The user identity is the commercial creator. The emotional hook is punching above your weight. The enemy is no longer Photoshop. It's the gap between how small businesses look and how they want to be perceived. And the unique weapon is AI that you control, not AI that controls you. Now, Troy, before we go further, does this architecture feel true to what Canva actually delivers? Because
Yeah.
positioning has.
No, it does. It absolutely does. And I want to wrap this up because I think we really nailed it on the head here, and I think this is a good point to leave this off.
Agreed, Troy. This was a sharp session. We came in with a $4 billion company that looked like it was talking to everyone. We left with a clear positioning architecture, Creative Studio for Commerce, built for the commercial creator, where AI is your collaborator, not your replacement, and the enemy is the gap between how small businesses look and how they deserve to be seen. That's a lane Canva can own. And more importantly, it's one they've already built the product to defend. They just haven't said it clearly yet. Good work today. A transcript of this will be sent automatically.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Edward. Okay, talk to you soon. This is great. If you like this, drop a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye bye.